Hello there and welcome back to another video. I made this exact video nearly 2 years ago. I'm still wearing the same shirt, so give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you'd like to see me buy a new shirt. Today we're giving this video an update because I still receive comments like, where does he get these prices? I got those prices back in 2020 when that video was produced. The upload date is right in front of you. I'm sure you understand how time works. Here are the bikes I recommended with their prices back in 2020. And here are the prices of those same bikes as of today, filming on January 5th, 2022. Yes, it sucks that those bikes have increased that much, but fear not, because I've spent hours searching the internet and have found 4 mountain bikes that you can buy in 2022 for $1,200 or less. This list was way harder than I expected to put together. Really quick before we get started, here's a couple things to note. I based all of these bikes off of the US market. There seem to be a lot of good budget options in Europe, but they're very difficult, if not impossible, to get here in the States. Sorry to my European friends. My original requirements for the bikes back in 2020 was they all had to have an air fork, hydraulic disc brakes, and boost through axle spacing front and rear. But because your dollar doesn't go as far as it did 2 years ago, I've had to loosen those requirements a little bit. All of the bikes today do have hydraulic disc brakes, through axles. Notice I didn't say boost, but we'll talk about that. And 75% of the bikes on here have an air fork. I'll let you do the math. Lastly, most of these bikes aren't necessarily for sending it super hard. If you aspire to ride double black diamond trails, want to hit some big old nasty jumps or horrendous drops, then I would strongly advise you to save up some more money and buy a bike with components that are spec'd for that kind of riding in mind. These bikes are for new riders that want to dip their toes in the metaphorical waters of mountain biking and see if it's a sport they want to continue with. Got it? Good. Let's go ahead and dive in. The Polygon Xtrada 7. This bike costs $1,100, and guess what? They did not increase the price from the 2021 model. Bravo, Polygon. This aluminum hardtail falls into what I would call the new breed of XC, with its slack by cross-country standards 67-degree head tube angle paired to a 75-degree seat tube angle. 120 millimeters of travel from a SR Suntour XCR32 air fork, 12-speed Shimano Dior drivetrain with the 10 to 51 tooth cassette, Shimano hydraulic disc brakes, internal routing for a dropper post, through axles front and rear, and 30mm internal width, tubeless compatible wheels is all a pretty impressive spec for this price. It almost sounds too good to be true. Well, it partially is. This bike does have the standard 12x148 boost through axle in the rear, but it uses a standard sized 15x100 through axle up front. Not a big deal at all, but it is worth noting if you ever want to upgrade your wheels. The seat tube diameter is 27.2 millimeters, so that does limit your choices if you want to run a longer dropper post. And lastly, the wheels are tubeless compatible, but the tires it comes with are not tubeless compatible. Okay, that wasn't the last one. One final gripe, the rotors only accept resin brake pads. None of that matters too much when you factor in the price and this unbelievably sexy retro paint job. For that alone, take my money, Polygon. I do have to applaud Polygon and Bikes Online because it seems like they almost always have bikes in stock, even during these crazy times. A really impressive value for this bike, and I should be getting one in for review soon, so we'll learn a little bit more about it later on. The Canyon Stoic 2. This is the most aggressive bike we're going to look at today, and you can ride this thing pretty hard with its long, low, and slack geometry. Hit all of the buzzwords in that sentence. This aluminum hardtail costs $1,200, and it comes in 6 different sizes. 2XS through small gets 27.5-inch wheels, and then medium through extra large get 29-inch wheels. 140 millimeters of travel from the SR Suntour XCR34 Air boost fork, Shimano Dior 10-speed with an 11 to 42 tooth cassette, Shimano hydraulic disc brakes, internal routing for a 30.9 millimeter dropper post, so you can run a long post on this one, boost through axles front and rear with tubeless ready wheels paired to a Schwalbe Hans Dampf out back and a Magic Mary up front. Not a lot to complain about on this bike. Some riders may find that the 42 tooth climbing gear isn't enough for really steep terrain, and just like the Xtrada, this bike also is spec'd with resin only rotors. I don't have the weights of all the bikes on this list, but if I were to guess, This one's probably the heaviest, but also the most capable. If you want to hit those big old nasty jumps, this is the bike for you. You can stop watching the video now, but I'd appreciate it if you stayed till the end. Another incredible paint job in my opinion, and if you think this bike is awesome too, you better get ready to buy one because it looks like most sizes will become available later this month or in early February. The Fezzari Wasatch Peak Comp. Our cheapest option today comes in at $999, and you can get either a 29-inch wheel or a 27.5-inch plus wheel across all sizes, small through extra large. You get a choice. That is pretty rare these days. The Wasatch Peak is the most traditional bike here in terms of geometry, with its steeper 68-degree head tube angle and shorter reach numbers. However, Fezzari does offer a 23-point custom setup where you give them some measurements and some other information, and they dial in the bike perfectly for you and your riding style. As far as I'm aware, Fezzari is one of the only companies doing that, and it's pretty cool. If you're new to bike sizing and fitment, you could definitely get the Fezzari, go through that process, and end up getting the perfect fitting bike for you. 120 millimeters of travel from the SR Suntour XCR34 Air Boost fork, 12-speed SRAM SX Eagle with the 11 to 50 tooth cassette, Tektro hydraulic disc brakes, internal routing for a 31.6 millimeter dropper post, boost through axles front and rear, with tubeless ready wheels paired to either Maxxis Ardent race tires in a 2.2-inch width for the 29-inch model, or Kinda Havoc tires in a 2.8-inch width for the 27.5-inch model. The wheels on the 29-inch version have a 25mm internal width. I personally prefer something a little bit wider, but most newer riders aren't going to care. This has the same issue as the other two bikes, and the rotors are resin pads only. I've heard the SX Eagle drivetrain isn't that great, especially when compared to the Shimano Dior drivetrain, but at $999, it is hard to complain about this bike. You can also add upgrades straight from Fezzari, like they'll do a tubeless setup. You can even add a dropper post for additional cost. So if you have a little more money to spend, you can get this thing pretty dialed. If the more upright and traditional geometry doesn't bother you that much, then I would say this is probably the best value on this list. The Cannondale Trail SE4. Coming in at $1,150 is this aluminum offering from Cannondale. This is a 29-inch only bike with 120 millimeters of travel from an SR Suntour XCR32 coil fork. The bike isn't on the list for the components because if you compare the components to the other three bikes, this is a far worse value, but it is on this list for the frame design. It seems like Cannondale put a good amount of effort into making this a very comfortable frame to ride, and a lot of the reviews I've seen seem to validate that. It has dropped seat stays and flex zones in the rear triangle to help reduce chatter from the trails. Geometry is a 66.5-degree head tube angle with a 74-degree effective seat tube angle, but this bike does have the shortest reach figures on this list. It uses the Shimano Dior 10-speed drivetrain with the 11 to 46 tooth cassette, Tektro hydraulic disc brakes, internal routing for a 27.2mm dropper post, so limited travel range like the Polygon, boost through axles front and rear, along with tubeless ready wheels paired to non-tubeless ready tires. Not the most impressive spec, but this is the only bike from a non-direct-to-consumer brand, and if the frame rides as nice as they claim, then this can still be a worthy option, especially if you're a more casual mountain biker. Woo! So there you go, 4 bikes under $1,200 in 2022. Like I said at the beginning, this list was tough to put together, and I honestly could not find a 5th bike that offered the features I was looking for. This list was so much easier to make 2 years ago, and it sucks to see these entry-level bikes getting pushed up in price. This is a tough price point to be in because if you spend a couple hundred more, you can get bikes with things like a dropper post, the tubeless ready wheels and tires, or nicer components. And then on the flip side, if you spend under $1,000, you'll probably get a 2x drivetrain, no tubeless compatibility at all, open dropouts, and questionable component quality. I think all 4 of these bikes are a great entry point into mountain biking, and they would do just fine on some green, blue, and even black trails depending on your skill level. If it were my money and I was looking at these 4 bikes, here's the order I'd buy them in: Canyon Stoic, Polygon xtrada, Fezzari Wasatch Peak, and then Cannondale Trail SE4 last. That's just for me and the type of riding I like to do. I'm not able to tell you which bike is best for you. It really depends on where you live, the kind of trails you like to ride, your skill level, the style of riding you like to do. There's just a ton of different factors that some stranger on the internet can't really tell you what to ride. I make these videos to help you find the best value in mountain bikes, to help you narrow down that selection, and the rest is up to you. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and consider subscribing if you aren't already. I appreciate your time, and until the next one, stay rowdy within reason.